Hey, hi everyone. Namaste. Good day to you all. I greet you all, and I invite you all, if you so choose, to embark with us as we all explore the possibilities. I'm a little hyped up, a little background for this, I guess, as by way of introduction to set the proper expectations and provide you the proper parameters and expectations for this communication, right? So, hi, self. We identified as David Youngblood all of our life, all of our existence, rather, because it's more than life. In that journey and in that process, we came to learn, know, and understand a lot of different things. But in that journey and in that process, and also by design, the chaos that exists in my life and has existed throughout my life has been there by design to force, push, test, pull, tug, tear, in order for me to be able to then transform, transcend, evolve, whatever word you want to use in the language, right? Transform, transcend, evolve. Not in the sense that you're evolving, like a metamorphosis in a literal sense, right? Like a caterpillar to a butterfly. But what's cool about that, man, another cool thing about that actually, is meta. Meta, right? We've got meta. So meta's a word. If meta's a word that we have that is to explain metamorphosis, to transform, right? I don't know what meta means. I literally don't know the root Latin part of it, but I like it as a word. Conceptually, what the word means to me without knowing its literal definition, the word's expression to me implies that meta is a good terminology, and my updated and current version and lexicon, and my interpretation, our interpretation, I'm still getting used to it, pardon me, I got to debug my code again, but in our participation in our existence, right, is everything is nothing, is we've heard it all before a million bajillion times, a million trillion ways, and it's very, very simple yet super complex, right? The duality of the concept, the notion, the belief, the capacity for understanding and comprehension, that duality in and of itself is the challenge, is the test. That's the test. Recently, and as a theme in my life over the past few years, I kept hearing over and over and over and over and over, right? Don't let perfection get in the way of what? Of what? Of what? Of next steps, right? Of action. Of action. Why not? Because when you do, you prevent things from happening, processes to get started, systems to get going, data to get collected, because bugs start showing up, and then you could start debugging and then stop the script or application or program or process or system, or insert lexicon word of your language and choice and expression and what you identify with as a word that best helps you comprehend that concept to the extent of application in your meta existence. Meta existence. What is that? It's a good question. One of the basis premises for these thoughts that I'm working through, that I'm coming through right now, is, it stems from, rather, I get excited, I want to say a lot, and what I'm having a hard time doing, what is challenging to me, us, we, is I'm also a me. Actually, the duality of it is that I can be a me and an I, and a we and a them and a they at the same time. We are, and that's okay, because we have to be able to, have the capacity for, being able to position ourselves in a relative comparison to the object we're trying to understand, right? The subject that we're trying to understand, the object of our attention, whatever that is. We want to understand it. What does that mean? Okay, what that means is we need to be able to look at it, right? We actually, if you're looking at a process as a whole, right, a complete and total circular, repeatable, beautiful, by design process, right? It starts, I believe, our current interpretation of our existence and our role in it as we participate and contribute any way we can and will and are. All that is true. In a way, well, I won't go to that. I'll do that later. Save that for later, y'all. That would be like some sixth dimension stuff, just as a footnote, so you can ask me later. So, and that's what happens is you start thinking about another thing and you get off track. So earlier I was talking about going and getting and working through this, and I'm excited. I'm so excited, and really a big problem with all the excitement is that I'm having a hard time finding a way to communicate, right? And that's really the premise of it all, the basis of it all. It's talking about the key pillars, key components of all this. It is the ability to whew. Oh, it's exciting. Just sit back. All right. It's having the ability to juxtapose oneself and one's perspective of oneself, and also other people's perspective of oneself. Me, you, us. That's just I'm just working through thoughts and thinking out loud, right? So to kind of take you down the trip and by way of introduction component and catch you up on the story, my life story and stuff we'll get into some other time, right? If you're interested, if you want to, and so choose to partake in the digestion and consumption of the data that I would share through a conversation, right? Or some form of communication through some channel of communication. Right, I said all that and I said all those things, and I'll do this again and I'll do it a lot. And it's going to sound a little silly, but there's a point. There's an absolute, certain point. Crucial point. Critical. Sorry, not crucial. Thanks, Dad. One of the first ones to correct me on a word that stuck in the memory. I was playing a video game with him, right? We'll talk about video games more later too, but I was playing a video game with him, and what I was able to do was hit the button and go. And we were fighting, and there was a hard moment, and I was like, "Oh, crucial hit!" And he's like, "Wait, crucial or critical?" And he course corrected my perception and understanding of the word. Is the point of the takeaway? He changed my paradigm, right? Paradigm shift. Principles, paradigms, and I wrote this one down because it's so mission critical. But I've said a lot. And I've summarized it in my footnotes because now I have a conceptualization and understanding of what it is I'm trying to understand as an object or entity in my mind expressionally. And because it exists here in my mind in this space expressionally, what I'm able to do with it is I can then take it and use it. I am empowered, right? It's all about being able to label, identify, categorize, segment, right? In business and marketing and B2B marketing automation, we segment, we identify, we profile. We do it by title, we do it by role. We want to know, what are their responsibilities? What's their title? Why aren't the two inclusive? I don't know. But in the journey, right? In the experience with my peers from across this beautiful and amazing world, in the journey with my peers, what I came to know and learn was I didn't have the right contextual reference starting point to properly understand and comprehend and participate in aspects of the conversation that they were trying to have with me. And so in that journey and process, I kept going and trying to find out more, right? We had this burning, yearning desire, craving, calling, tug, all kinds of words we use to describe aspects of it. One thing I'll go ahead and give you all, because I'm going to reference it a bunch probably, I think, It's a working theory that I feel like my memory's extrapolated from everything else that I learned over time, right? So, but the working theory is around an understanding of a visual representation, so through the eye and or mind's eye, right? Because while you take in something and process the data through your optics, you see and accept that it has a presence there in front of you. That's acknowledgement. You're seeing and acknowledging it, right? The next layer is the well, I mean, how do we want to say this or structure it? The takeaways are 3 layers. I don't know the right way to deliver it. That might be something we draw from Simon Sinek. Start with why, right? It might be why, what, how. And if we apply why, what, how to, as it translates to, we use his codec and his lexicon to interpret this information as we understand and see it today. Then what happens is we create this rule set and set of parameters to operate within, a construct, if you will, an OS or operating system that we're programming and updating and reprogramming. It's on our brain, right? Not just our brain though, right? It's more than that. Because more than our brain, we also have our mind, body, heart, right? Mind, body, soul. Wait, mind, body, heart? Mind, body, soul? Which is it? Mind, body, heart. Let's take a look. Okay. So, mind, body, heart. We've got, I'm going to try and do this. I don't know if I can. We'll try. We've got our mind, right? Our mind is going to help us over here. I'm going to have to like translate, transcribe, and document this and share it through another channel. It's probably not the most effective approach. So this is a broken system and process. I'm going to scrap this project and it needs to evolve. And I'll just kind of talk you through it, walk you through it as I think through my thoughts. Cool? Cool. Number 1 is mind. So with mind, you have thoughts, choice, and alert systems, right? Those are some components of what comprises and makes up a mind. Another thing that we've come to know and understand about what we interpret our role to be, and also at the same time what we want from, right? Think about that paradigm. I want, but it's also wanted by of me, from me, right? Of me, from me. Interesting. So I want, but it's also wanted and needed of or from me. What does that mean? Well, that tells me that there are multiple facets, is another way of understanding and interpreting it, to the other entity in the communication exchange. So let's challenging the paradigm, challenging the lexicon, right? Challenging your vocabulary, the words you know and think you know and you think you understand. That's the real question. Because if you challenge the foundational elements and components in the construct of your capacity and ability to interpret the world around you and your role in it, then you're able to have a new starting point, an anchor point, a grounding point, a juxtaposition point, right? It's not a definitive location in a singular plane. It is a metaphysical GPS tag, right? For lack of a better word, for using the lexicon of today in modern era and technology, because what we do and have done throughout history and throughout evolution is we have created and developed upon ourselves, or throughout history, we've created and recreated just a bunch of tests, basically. We just run a bunch of tests, right? Run the bot, automate the bot, run that script. Let's go with some AI, right? All right, some artificial intelligence, going to make some decisions for us here with some machine learning. Okay, what's that about? How's that work? Anybody know how to explain that shit? No? I didn't used to either. Really didn't. What about another fun topic? Blockchain. Oh, that's going to be fun, right? Blockchain. So we're going to talk about the interoperability of everything, right? Interoperability because interoperability, I feel, captures a different dynamic paradigm of the relationship, right? Paradigm and or perspective, depending on the observer and where the observer is at in every which way in their meta existence, right? Meta conscious, right? Subconscious, conscious. That doesn't really take care of the body either. So it's not really meta conscious. It's really meta. It's going to be more inclusive. Meta existence. What if we just call it our Facebook? Just kidding. Yeah, if you're not having fun, what's the point? Like, really, honestly. If you can't stop at any point in time and just laugh about something, appreciate, take in, acknowledge, identify, appreciate and take it in for what it is in that moment, there with you, sharing this glorious and wonderful, beautiful experience of a lifetime. Because it's all we have. But that's okay. Because that in itself helps drive the system forward, right? We're going back to systems. So we're gonna transpose, right, and transverse through the lexicons of all different origins in this conversation. And talking to me, that's what you're gonna get. And those that talk to me, some call me YB, Youngblood, David, Dad is one of my favorites. My wife usually calls me David when she says my name, but she doesn't usually have to say my name because I'm usually looking at her. I love you, Liz. So, anyway, back to the point. Might edit that later, not sure. We talk about transparency. I'll get on that later too. We want it, we need it, but we don't want it. Well, why? We actually do want some of it, and we don't want others. And I know why we do and don't. On the topic of transparency, so I need to make a note of that. Why? Yes. Why? No. Why? When? Right. So think about the use cases. Right? And really what everybody's done and been doing, and thank you, David Glickman, sir, for helping me in so many ways, us in so many ways, we in so many ways, because what we were able to accomplish thus far, and I want to work with you more, but what we were able to accomplish was absolutely extraordinary. I mean, just extraordinary. If, hypothetically speaking, right, because this is all about thought. It's all about challenging thought and a constant, continual test of thought of oneself to keep self in one's place, to hold your perspective, paradigm, platform, right, your orientation point in the meta existence, and as it relates to other things in the meta existence. It's all about that theory of relativity that Einstein had, right? Einstein had this. He was right. He saw it. He saw it too. He got a taste. He got a touch. He could feel. He could tap into whatever type into or level of thought this is, right? It's not. So full transparency. I, David Youngblood, human on Earth, am an addict, right? I got a tattoo about it. I'm an addict, right? I'm absolutely an addict. And you know what? That's okay. I'm okay with that. It's a beautiful thing, and I'll tell you why later. I got some great news that hopefully when shared, shared, communicated, studied, and observed and studied, analyzed, modeled after, made into some kind of a tool, a widget, an application, a program, whatever the word is, whatever you want to call it, some way to actionify, if you will, that lesson or learning or set of lessons or learnings, because it could be a system or systems of systems or systems of systems of systems, right? You don't want to limit your thought to the restrictive nature in this whole movement about don't think binarily, right? They're saying don't be binary, which is the wrong message. It's don't think binarily, right? Saying telling someone don't be binary in and of itself is binary. Holy shit, right? That's a profound thought if you think about it. So by instructing someone to not be binary, you yourself then become binary. And if you follow that thought path, where I took it to was, what if, the question I asked myself the other day, 2-3 days ago, was, what if we started thinking trinarily? I don't even know if that's a word. I still haven't Googled it yet, actually. I wrote it down. But conceptually, what I was first asking myself was, what have I thought about there being, at least just challenge myself, just a little fun exercise. What have I imagined, used my imagination, and thought outside that box, and went to think about the limitations and holds or restrictions that we put ourselves in our mental construct and what we are, what we're experiencing, right? And so we take that and we take the information a step further. I just lost my train of thought again. And it happens that fast because I'm already on to like 10 other ideas. Every data point that's happening and coming to me, everything I glimpse and see, every thought or flash in my brain and every synapse goes to and fires off to pulling from and drawing from the most beautifully and elegantly designed database that has ever existed, right? And so one of the things that we all love and want to do, right, inherently in our nature, and not necessarily want to love and do. Some of us don't like doing it. Some of us, that's not our job or role or contribution to make to the greater experience, right? Sometimes that's not the case or the problem. But on the other side, what does happen is, man, I just lost my thought again because I got a distraction. I got noise in my life, and it just took me off my trail of thought. One of the things I'll share, just because now I'm thinking about this other thought, about staying on thought, staying on track in this mind space when you are here. Obviously, it's super challenging. You've probably interacted with people before at some point who, everyone has the capacity for this, I believe. I think that's my working and operating belief. In that I believe and accept as a universally accepted truth in my comprehension, understanding, and interpretation of my existence, our existence, and contributions to our collective existence, right? If I had those as my qualifiers, as the rule set for the program or the application I'm going to run, right? So now we're going to go into computer programming. So computer programming, I define the parameters. Awesome. What are those parameters? You got to define them. What are they? Well, we've historically gone to many sources. A lot of them have been wrong. Many of them have been right enough, right? And I'll give you an example. I won't. I don't know if about computer programming yet. I know some names: C++, Python. Conceptually, I did some Deluge for Zoho. I did a Deluge script training and stuff. So I kind of conceptually get the structuring and the formulaic approach to structuring the information or data, right? Or script or instructions or code or programming, whatever you want to call it, or those things, those cluster of things that are many things, but also one thing, right? Whatever you call that, if you sum it up, we're just rewriting programs. We're running applications over and over and over. The Matrix was a more recent, a more modern, and now more pop culturally relevant interpretation of this as well. And it resonated so freaking well with me at 11 years old. I'll never forget. And thanks, Dad, for taking me. One of my favorite movies of all time. I had no idea why I loved it so much. I just knew I did. Because me, David Youngblood, 11-year-old little boy, did not have the contextual reference to provide myself a relative comparison to juxtapose and come from and look at, right? Come from and look at the right points, the origin point, destination point, and space in between. And their relation to everything else around them. And if you don't use the triangulation process, right? Triangle, Trinity, if you don't use triangulation on your sense of self and the meta conscious or meta existence, then you end up stumbling a whole lot, basically. Yeah. All the bad things you can think about that happen, and most of that's because we're going around stumbling, getting off track and derailing, because it's a constant struggle to get back on track. Everybody got a lot of it right? Everybody got a lot right. So, borrowing, stealing, or maybe reappropriating, or maybe, what are some other fun words? Taking, grabbing, thieving, right? Those have some negative associations to them, but let's try some different ones, right? What if because we're talking about an object, and the object is language, and the object of the sentence is language, so what we're talking about is taking language, pulling and drawing from language, from everyone's language, with an outcome goal in mind, right? A net sum finish, an end result. The purpose of all of this is to run the application and program. Why? To run the test and simulation. Why? To see we figured out and debug the application. Why? Because even when we do ... ellipses, 3 dots, Trinity. It's all very beautiful, and it's all very interoperated and interoperable connected. I don't know that word. Not going to try it. That's not my role. One of the things that I've interpreted and come to understand is my role, or purpose, as I see and understand it, based on where I and we are in this shared existence, here, now, then, and there, right? Everywhere. All. My role, my purpose, is to help in the transcription and translation, digestion and downloading of this information and data to the best of my ability or know-how, right? That's all. I just offer what I can, and that's okay. We can all give a little of whatever we have to give. One of the most precious and important and significant and impactful resources that we can give. Sorry, just kidding. It's the most important one. It's love, right? I mean, I just got goosebumps, right? I hope you did too. Love is energy, is part of our essence, our metaconscience, and when we understand the functions of love, the parameters of love, as its different uses in different and various use cases and applications in our existence, then great things happen, right? Great things happen. So what happens? Well, we can have love working for us and not against us. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is love working against me is being manipulated, is being abused emotionally, mentally, even physically, because I can translate to emotional, right, and or that feeling damage, right, on the feelings part of our body and mind. It's so crazy. Biology, biochemistry, that's all the same. I'm gonna go. Those are still the same group, but you guys should all work together. You guys and gals and people should all work together. You folks, whoever you identify yourself as, a collective group of people that share a common interest in joining in the contributions to a common goal. Good for you. Wish you luck. I'll help any way I can. Maybe this is my part. Maybe this is it, and it's nothing more. Or maybe I get to do a lot more, and that's awesome and okay too. Acceptance, acknowledgement of self, of agency, of belonging and purpose and fulfillment and peace. Well, all right. He got that right too. I like that. I'm going to do that when I meditate some. That helps me in the, kind of creates that pulse to help you find your center. right? So on the note of center and chi and meditation, a little bit more of an advanced concept. Not everybody gets it, or in their current lexicon and library of information and data source as a reference library, your reference library that you're equipped with at this time is just incapable, unfortunately, of translating, right? You're not stupid. You just don't know any better, right? We said that before. What were we really saying? Every time we've ever tried to communicate that, it comes across as offensive, right? And I was analyzing that too and questioning myself, why am I so offended by the notion? Why am I so offended by the notion that I just can't get it, or that I'm incapable of getting it? How dare you? How dare you? Guess what? We're built that way. I'm supposed to feel those feelings. And it's okay to feel those feelings. Because feelings are energy. They translate to energy. The feelings help to fuel the other components of self in my metaconscious. And so in being able to work through, again, labeling, identifying, compartmentalizing, thank you for compartmentalization, and I call him God. And I'm trying to not call them God. I'm sorry, I'm trying to not call them him. I am personally, me, myself, and I, and we, and us, and our selves are going to work towards changing our paradigm, right? Our PPP, our perspective paradigm platform, right? Because you need more than just perspective, that's just sight. You need more than just paradigm, that's thought, rules, governance, law, right? Of mental state, programming and code. And you need platform because you need a place to stand from, something to stand within. You need the ultimate min-max parameters for the simulation to be able to run, right? You talk to a programmer, they'll explain that to you better than I can, but for whatever reason it clicks for me right now, and I'm not a programmer. But conceptually I get it because I have expanded through my life's works, my studies and understanding and comprehension for the use and application of my learnings, right? One of the things I've learned is if you qualify your thoughts, right? And that's, for me, that started with words and communication and language and vocabulary. But if you qualify your thoughts correctly and you define the correct min-max parameters, then what you're able to do is develop a plethora of systems within your systems that automate and simplify your existence, which translates into a happier, more fulfilled, balanced life. And also, you get to give back more. You get to give back more. You ever walk around, look around, and think about like, wow, man, I wish I could do that. How do they have all that time? How do they have all that energy? How do they have all that money? How do they have all that success? How do they have all that happiness, sense of purpose and fulfillment, right? I'll tell you this, a lot of them don't even know what they don't know, and they don't know that they figured some things out. And that's another beautiful and okay thing about this, because our existence is in essence, in an oversimplification, and a very risky thing to do, but in a nutshell, it is an infinite loop of simulations with the perceived intent and outcome of a ... that we are programmed and conditioned and trained and studied and evolved into interpreting as something we think kind of looks, sounds, feels, smells, tastes, Googles like heaven. Right? It Googles like heaven. Because we don't yet have in this existence at this time, with where we've come to as a people and our collective combined and shared knowledge, we have not been able to yet come to a place to have the right API integration, universal API integration translation tool that we can widget plug into it and say, okay, what's that mean? And plug it in, and that thing would translate it for us into what we would understand. We don't have that translator. Where is it? Gosh. Oh man, I learned a lot about API integration. A lot over the past few years. More than I thought I ever wanted to know, and it ended up being pretty neat stuff to me, right, in my experience. And that's my path, and that's okay, right? So I learned a lot about API integrations and the interoperability of things, and had a lot of conversations and debates and discussions around software and product with super, super smart people, freaky smart people. I mean, like, IQ through the roof, you know? And so this one person in particular, I was having a chat with late at night, and we were talking about code, and we were talking about programming, and, you know, what I remember right now so clearly is the formula, structure, and format of what was there. Then I asked myself, is that a formula? Or is that just sentence diagramming? Or is that just nerd talk, right? I was trying to interpret or understand it, but I wasn't spending focus, concentrated effort working towards understanding, with the outcome in mind being having the comprehension of and being able to apply the knowledge learned from having performed that observation. And so because of this, what happened was I didn't get it. Ultimately, I didn't really get it then. I do now, a lot more, not perfectly, but a lot more than I used to. And so what else is happening is I feel as if I'm going through my own little process of processes, stacks on stacks on stacks, of building mental models and simulations through thought, right? Through philosophy, we call it. The study of thought, I think. I don't know. Do I? Let's see what I did there. But we do this, and the pursuit is what it is, right? So we have the tangible and the intangible. And they both exist at the same time. Without one, there's not the other, right? That's the duality of it all. And it's like a no-brainer thing, right? And one of the things also, I'll do this.